Indiana in 2010. I launched a community conference called Midwest Dreamin' in 2011. The largest community conference in the U.S. We had almost 1,100 people attending this year in Minneapolis just a couple of months ago. Been a Salesforce MVP since 2013 and in the MVP Hall of Fame since 2020. I guess that's about it from an intro perspective. And professionally, I am actually in between jobs at the moment. Or as someone told me I should be saying, taking a sabbatical rather than in between jobs, because it sounds a little better that way.
That's cool. Nice.
So, well, if you want, I can just share my screen and we can just dive right in.
Sure.
All right, are we seeing my screen here? You getting it okay?
Yes, we are.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. So there's a little about me. We've talked about most of this, but the one part I always like to joke about is the Twitter handles, which you can see my personal Eric Dresh Twitter handle, and then I have 3 other Twitter handles listed on there, one for Midwest Dreamin', one for my user group, and one for the breakfast that I host at Dreamforce every year. So I jokingly call myself a Twitter addict, and then I openly admit that admitting I have a problem is the first step to fixing the addiction, but I don't usually take it any further than admitting I have a problem with Twitter and just leave it at that. So follow me, at least on the Eric Dresh. That's where most of my tweets happen from, because that's a year-round effort on sharing information through that one. So today's presentation is kind of a unique look at life as a Salesforce admin through kind of in the comedic style of Jeff Foxworthy and his "You Might Be a Redneck If" comedy routine. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to start off with a different version of the safe harbor or forward-looking statement, and kind of do it the way Steve Molis does it, where he claims to get a little rowdy. Sometimes says that things might be get a little bit crazy and use a little bit of what he may have called colorful language at one point. So this is my forward-looking statement, my safe harbor statement, as Steve would say in his Boston accent, and just paying homage to him. Most of you probably have asked a question out in the answers community, and more than likely Steve had something to do with your answer. He's been out there answering questions in the community for probably 13 or 14 years, and I think holds the record for the total number of questions answered, like 75 or 80,000 by now. And he usually ends it by saying, "And you owe me a beer." So for those of you who know Steve, here's a little shout out to him, and thanks for sharing the community with all of us. So thinking about what daily work life is for Salesforce admins, if your users come to you when they forget your password, or when they tell you IT forgot to install Salesforce on their computer, you might be an admin. And if managers come to you with challenges already solved, and I'm sure that's probably happened to some of you, where they hand you an Excel spreadsheet and say, "Hey, can you just duplicate this in Salesforce?" That's another sign you might be an admin. Now, most of you are probably shaking your head and saying, "Don't do that. Don't just recreate what exists, because it may not be the best way of doing things." And if that's the thought process going through your mind, guess what? You might be an admin. Think about what happens when you open your web browser on your computer. You probably have multiple tabs open? For me, it's usually Salesforce, Trailhead, Twitter, the Trailblazer community. Of course, a few other things. LinkedIn usually is open for me as well. Probably almost all of us have multiple tabs open on our browser. Some of us may have multiple instances of Salesforce going in different browsers even because maybe we're a consultant and have to deal with multiple clients a day. And if things like that happen, guess what? You might be an admin. The hats on the shelf there is kind of the metaphor for most of us people and working in this ecosystem, wearing multiple hats at the same time and doing many different jobs at the same time. The last point on this screen, when you search the community and you find there's multiples of you out there, Salesforce is actually trying to work on that and trying to make it better. So maybe sooner or later, there won't be 10 or 12 or 20 of you out there based upon all the logins you've had over the life of your Salesforce career, or all the times you've been logged into a client's org and accidentally gone to the community, and all of a sudden there's another one of you out there. So guess what? If that happens to you often, you're right, you might be an admin. How many of you have arranged family vacations to coincide with Salesforce events? Am I the only one raising my hand? Probably not. But it is, if you go around and follow Salesforce events, world tours, Dreamforce, the community-led conferences, you can really enjoy some nice locations within the US and beyond to visit. And I have certainly planned some of my journeys to community conferences because I have family in the area, or because it's a location I've never wanted to go to before. Tahoe, for example, Tahoe Dreamin', I think started in 2016. I think that's one of the few community-led conferences that I have not missed at all. I've been there every year that it's happened. And South Lake Tahoe is just an amazing place to go. If you've never been there, the events happened in the winter, it's happened in the summer, and it's a really interesting place to go both seasons. I'm sure a lot of have experienced the question by people who sort of know what you do, and they think you work for sales. And if you have to constantly explain, you don't work for Salesforce, you work with Salesforce, or you work for a Salesforce partner, or you do consulting on Salesforce. Guess what? Yep, you might be an admin as well. What's it mean in your personal life? Probably have had to turn down invitations to events that our friends are holding because of going to Dreamforce. Now, I may have doctored up this email just for of the shock factor of saying, sorry, can't come to your wedding. Can you push it back a week because I'll be at Dreamforce? But I know it's happened to me before where there have been family and friend events that I couldn't attend simply because of Salesforce events. And I'm probably not the only one that's happened to, I would guess. Speaking of Dreamforce, they did just announce their dates for 2023, September, I want to say the second or third week. I'm totally blanking on the exact dates, but I just saw the announcement within the last week. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested in making a trek to San Francisco next fall. So do you name your children Astro, Blaze, Cloudy, Cody, Mike, Jillian? Well, okay, some of those are actual people and not Salesforce mascots, but that certainly seems to be a big thing in this ecosystem, collecting the stuffed animals, proudly displaying the collections in your background sometimes. And even I know some people that usually have one in their backpack with the head sticking out when they're out traveling even, just to show it off. And that might be a sign that you spend a little too much time with Salesforce. Is it difficult for you to have conversations with people who don't work in Salesforce? Do you feel like you talk about Salesforce all the time and those friends just don't get it? Yep, that happens to me sometimes. I have to then go back a few slides. Salesforce is all about and what I really do. I know DevOrgs is a big deal, and you can literally sign up for as many DevOrgs as you want. And probably some of you have created unique use cases for DevOrgs. I know people that have built DevOrgs to track the flowers in their garden, or to organize the volleyball meets for their child. The last example on there, I don't think I've ever heard anybody actually doing it, but wouldn't it be cool if you could build a DevOrg that would tap into your school system's your school, your child's school's systems to be able to get automated notifications when they get an A. Homework is due, so you can help your child make sure they succeed. And then, of course, treat them with rewards when they get a perfect score on a test. I don't know if schools are doing that, but I think that would be pretty cool if they'd open things up like that to the parents and have them get that ability to do that, which would be fun. All signs of that you might be a Salesforce admin. Have any of you heard people talk about the Salesforce community being like a cult, where everybody's super excited to go to things and talks about it all the time, and drinking the Kool-Aid, as some people have described it to me. Hopefully none of you have the word force in your password, but I'm sure that's happened before. And the whole hashtag that started a few years ago about admins drink, and it's because of all the challenges they face and all the silly things that users and managers make them do. It's part of our lifestyle, right? And then dyeing your hair blue, for example. I've seen a lot of people do that. I know people that have Salesforce tattoos on their arms, and it's not necessarily just the temporary ones. It's permanent. They have the cloud logo, or they have Astro or some of the other characters tattooed on them. And of course, the mobile phone, we all have one, right? How many of you have Salesforce on your phone so you can stay connected, do your work from wherever, even if you're not sitting in front of your computer, right? That's another sign you may have joined a cult. I'm sorry, you might be an admin. A couple takeaways, a couple little things that I like to point out. Has everybody heard of the power of one? It's a pretty cool little trick where you can actually better utilize Salesforce to do some reporting. And it's literally creating a custom field where the value is set to, and that's it. And the power in this comes around from what you can do with that value, and other fields in the same record meeting certain criteria. Then you sum up that value of one, and you get the true count of what you're looking for, rather than just the count of the records in that object. Community conferences, I touched upon that earlier. They're all over the place. They're finally back to in person this year. They started coming back to life. I think there might be one or two more between now and the end of the year. I'm not positive, but I know Cactus Force is coming to Phoenix in January. I've heard rumors that Snow Force is coming back to life this year, probably in March in Salt Lake City. That one hasn't been around for a few years. And that website there, the trailhead.salesforce.com community conference page, lists all the ones that Salesforce has been made aware of. So check that out if you're interested in going. And then, of course, developer orgs. We touched on that already. Create as many as you like. You can constantly sign up for those at that address. They are great places to play around and try things out, so you're not going to damage any production orgs. And then just a couple other resources, blog sites that I always like to point out: Salesforce Ben and Automation Champion. Those are probably the two largest community blog sites that are out there as far as the number of readers and viewers they get, and the volume of content that they create and share with everybody is pretty amazing. And then there's three different podcasts that I point out. They may have gone a little dormant over the last couple of years, but I know Campfire Stories is in the process of kind of firing back up and getting some new stories put out there as well. And then, of course, Salesforce Plus. They launched that not too long ago as part of the Dreamforce effort. And I believe that's my last slide. It is, because I'm not going forward to anything else.
Are you gonna share copies of the slides?
I sure will, yeah. Yep, I will do that. Anybody have comments, questions? Anybody feel like a lot of this made sense and is kind of some of their daily life? I know a few of you said you're new to the ecosystem, so you haven't experienced all of this yet, but trust me, it's coming. You probably will at some point.
So I had a comment about the cult, yeah, because my Instagram has force in it actually. So
Yep.
that's yeah. I mean, I'm part of cult. It's like
Yeah, and I've had a few people make that comment to me that the way we all kind of idolize like Benioff and some others in the ecosystem, it's kind of funny. But maybe this is a cult in a good way, right?
yeah, I know.
I think December 8, we have an event in New York.
New York? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, that's all I have. Appreciate the time. Thanks for joining me this morning.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eric. And yeah, I mean, the people who joined in person, I have a swag for them. And yeah, I mean, I think there are a few people who joined online. And thank you so much for joining. And thank you so much, Eric, for your valuable time and
Sure.
coming and like, yeah, I mean, I really appreciate this. And I hope to see you again in the future for one of other events.
Yeah. My plan at the moment, I think, I'm about 90% sure I will be at the World Tour in New York City.
Oh, you're gonna be here.
Coming up,
I think
coming
I'm
up in
gonna be here.
December. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
So
cool.
yeah, it's almost 100% at this point in time that I'm going to be there. So
Okay.
hopefully we'll
Great.
see some of you. That's like right around the corner from you. Well, maybe not, but it's like an hour away, right? I think.
Yes, it's not that far. It's like,
Yeah.
if you take a train, it's just like 50 minutes away. Yeah, it's not that bad.
Awesome.
That's
All
cool.
right. Well, y'all have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your time together. Those of you that are there in person. It sounds like you were at a coffee shop from some of the background talk I heard earlier. So enjoy
Yes,
that.
we are.
And
Yes, and we are going to have some coffee and some breakfast right now. So thank you.
Sounds
Thank you
great.
so much, everyone.
You're welcome. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye bye.